Welcome to All Steelers Talk, your home for everything Pittsburgh Steelers, presented by allsteelers.com.
What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined every Friday by my main man, Derek Bell. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Today, fully loaded show as always. Allen Robinson is in Pittsburgh. How does he fit? What is the outlook for the 2023 season when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver core? On top of that, pre-draft visits are officially done, book closed. There are three big names that the Pittsburgh Steelers assumingly canceled pre-draft visits with. What does it mean? And on top of that, where are they going with 17? We still seemingly have no idea, but we're going to take some guesses. It's been a beautiful week in the Burgh here. I don't know how it is in good old Kentucky, but for those of you who haven't heard, good old D Bell, Steelers DB, announced baby number 2 on the way. So congratulations, my friend. And how you feeling?
Appreciate that, brother. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Been good here. I mean, weather's been great. We're home stretch, man. Final home stretch. To draft weekend. We'll be less than a week away now. That's crazy, man. Time's flying by. I'm really excited though to get to next week to figure out, kind of where all the pieces end up falling.
Yeah, it's actually wild. Do you remember a draft this close in the last couple of years where you were just so uncertain about the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point?
Yeah, no, I really do feel like that. I mean, at least I've been, formally or informally scouting the draft since 2013, I think was the first one that I've always followed it, but that was the first one I was writing down my thoughts for. But this one, I don't know, man. This is definitely one of the more uncertain ones that I can remember, just in terms of figuring out, the position. I think we have a good idea of players that they're interested in, but I just feel like with the way the roster is, it's different than years past. 2020, it was Najee Harris all the way. Last year, even though maybe Pickett wasn't the number one guy in terms of quarterback that we thought they'd be interested in, but we knew they were going to take a quarterback in the first round. They did. This one's just man, I don't know. I mean, it could go so many different directions. So I'm excited to see kind of how it plays out.
Yeah, me too. And I think I got to give a little bit of credit to Omar Khan because it's felt like a minute since the Steelers have had a roster that was so put together. You were like, oh, okay, this is a pretty good spot heading into the draft. Even last year, there was a quarterback. It was Mitch Trubisky. You felt good about it. But at the same time, you knew that you had to add. This year, it's if you ignore this position, they'll be okay. If you ignore this position, they'll be okay. And it's not like they'll be okay right now. They'll probably be okay for the entire year and maybe next year as well. There's no pressing need right now. So they've definitely done a good job. We'll get into a lot of that because I think that there are some names that we've had conversations about they are in love with this guy. Well, they canceled a pre-draft visit with this guy and now reports say the opposite. So we're gonna get into all that. First, I want to talk Allen Robinson. Comes to Pittsburgh. Have you seen the restructured contract on top of that? For those of you who don't know by now, 7th round draft swap. The Steelers move back to 251 from 234. They take on just $5 million of Allen Robinson's contract. And on top of that, they changed the base salary as of yesterday. So they're saving even more money on this guy. As of now, the $5 million that they were supposed to spend on Allen Robinson this season has now been converted into a $3.825 million signing bonus with a $1.165 million salary. So they somehow got Allen Robinson and took $1.1 million off their salary cap for a guy who was set to make $18 million this season. Wild numbers. But now you look at the season and where Allen Robinson fits. Is he assumed the slot guy, the slot guy? Do you see him bouncing outside a little bit? I mean, depending on where he's been in his career, he's played different positions. But I think that the big physical body that the Pittsburgh Steelers have been looking for in the slot kind of matches what he brings to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, man. You look at Robinson, just in his usage last season, with LA.
Mhm.
He played about a third of his snaps in the slot, and that's really been consistent over the course of his career, especially post Jacksonville. He's played between about 28 to 40 something percent of his snaps in the slot, and that's not really
Yeah.
all that strange for a number one receiver. Last year, his usage was a little bit different, just because of he was playing a new offense. The Rams, man, like I'll be honest, when I saw the trade happen, I knew that they weren't going to be giving up much just because of how disappointing his season and really the Rams season was in general last season. And with the huge contract, I was like, there's no way they're sending anything to get this guy. This is a salary dump from the Rams perspective. And I was pretty pessimistic about the trade just because I was like, please tell me they're not retaining a bunch of this salary.
Yeah.
Because when I watched the Rams live last year, there's not a lot good that happened. I
No.
mean, Cooper Cup was still really good when he was healthy, but the offensive line was shambles. They couldn't run the ball. Matt Stafford looked washed at times. And then Allen Robinson was not productive. So it was one of those things. But when I went back and looked at the film, I'm a lot more optimistic about that now than I was originally when I heard the news.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, you saw this. That was my first reaction. I was like, "Ah, man, fans are going to be so excited until they see the cap hit, and then they're going to be
Yeah.
so upset about the situation." But just like you said, like I didn't expect much. I think a 7th round swap for this guy is unbelievable because when healthy, it's been 2 seasons of injured Allen Robinson, and that's been kind of a trend throughout his career. But the last time this guy played 17 games in a season back to back, he had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. So it's not like he's not productive. Like he's just had 2 very disappointing seasons. It's there. The talent's certainly there. It's a good fit for Kenny Pickett. And I think it helps because it doesn't take too much away from Calvin Austin. That was my biggest concern through all this is, okay, you got to bring somebody in that could play the slot, but that could also play the outside because you're going to want Calvin Austin to do some of the same stuff. And you don't want Austin to be that 4th wide receiver who never plays. Like you want him to have his reps and have his play designs. You want him to be involved in this offense as much as you can because last year, like that was the plan in training camp. The dude was lighting it up and the injury was unfortunate. You got to bank on, okay, well, he still has never played an NFL game. What's the foot injury going to do? But at the same time, like, this guy's your 4th-round draft pick a year ago. You had super high expectations for him, a higher grade than where you drafted him. You have to have some expectations. So, yeah, I do think I like that aspect of it all. Where do you go from here? Like, you still expect them to draft a wide receiver? And if so, like, what type of wide receiver?
Yeah. I mean, I think Robinson's a good complement to what they already had, right?
Yeah.
Like he's a big slot type who has that inside outside versatility. And like I think that's what the Steelers want. For their receivers not to be as stationary as they've been in the past. We saw George Pickens rotating the slot more a little bit as the season went on last year post Chase Claypool trade. We've seen Deontay Johnson move a little bit more in the slot. So having 3 guys that can rotate like that is going to be really helpful. And I think it also answers the question of what was going to happen next year if Deontay or George were to get hurt, like in training.
Yeah.
Like who was playing on the outside, like the X or the Z? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I think it would probably be Calvin, but I don't, or a rookie receiver, which neither one of those options are probably like exactly optimal. So like getting Allen Robinson in here leaves you a veteran guy that you trust. Like if something happens to one of those 2 guys, you're still going to have your boundary receiver position taken care of. And but as far as like where they go from here, I mean, I think it really just depends on the value of the board. I think they've put themselves in the position to where, it's probably off the table, I would say, with their 1st-round pick. I mean,
Yeah.
if they secretly have a thing for like a Jordan Addison or something like that, and he's there at 32 or maybe even 49, maybe they could look at that and say like, all right, this value is it's too good to be true. Like we need to pull the trigger. But
Mhm.
I don't think it really is it's going to be one of their focal points in this draft. Now that they've got Robinson, but I still could see them pulling the trigger in like round 3, round 4, like some guys that I think they could look at, if Jaden Reed from Michigan State's there, if Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss is there, I think those 2 names still make sense. or maybe they take like a late flyer on a specialist like Ford Wheaton or somebody like that. So
True.
I don't want to completely rule it out, but there's definitely bigger needs than receiver now on the roster for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I'm with you on. I think 32 is an option depending on who falls because I don't know where Jordan Addison or Zay Flowers or any of these guys going to go. You don't follow the notion of ESPN just Mel Kiper just hammering the fact that the Steelers are drafting Zay
That's
Flowers.
weird to me.
Dude, the second time was weird. The first one I was like, okay, like a shot in the dark. There's a connection there. I get it. The second time I was just like, he's just really trying here. Like there's something had to change. They did. They traded for Allen Robinson by the time that second draft came out. It just didn't make any sense. But I see you. Like I get the Jordan Addison at 32 or Zay Flowers at 32, like, or even like a Josh Downs if he's there at 49. Like I agree. I think if their name falls to them, just like they did Calvin Austin a year ago, like they're going to put value over the position of need. And on top of that, I don't think that they don't have alarming issues right now. They have a couple of depth issues, and they'll probably have to address those in the draft. But if a wide receiver slides to them and they're saying, oh, this guy's super talented and will add to our repertoire and give us 5 wide receivers that we feel really confident in, well, then that's what they're going to do, And I think those are all names. Wheaton's definitely a name. Reed's definitely a name. Mingo went in my mock draft yesterday. I think he's certainly a name just because he fits that bill and like will be a 4th round guy. So I think that's exactly where they're looking for a wide receiver. Are there that though? Like you look at Mingo has that in and out versatility and he's like a bigger guy. Reed does as well, but he's, Wheaton does, I guess, but he's a later round pick. But a lot of these guys are smaller dudes, most likely going to play in the slot in the NFL, or like maybe be an X, like a Deontay Johnson type thing. But they don't fit, they're not George Pickens. George Pickens is not in this draft like at all. So do you kind of see like, oh, the Steelers have to go this type of wide receiver? Like, do you see a cluster of one type of player this season?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it on the draft show this week. I mean,
I was
there's
going to say yesterday.
Ton of slots. I mean, just small slot receivers.
It's like the whole draft.
Yeah, this is just the draft. Like if you want a 5'9", 5'10", 170-pound receiver, you can find one for whatever flavor you're looking for. But like I said, man, I think to me, a guy like Robinson with a little more size is a better fit when you've already got a smaller receiver like Calvin Austin. Like I think, we use the expression all the time of, building your receiver room out like a basketball team. And I think the Steelers have done that to an extent. And one of the things about, just to get back to Robinson real quick before we move on, but I just really appreciate what Robinson does near the goal line. That was something that stood out. I went back and watched 3 games. I did a video on 2 of them. And, this dude was constantly beating press coverage and constantly winning in the red zone. And like, when you look at some of the Steelers' struggles in the red zone last year, Robinson is that big body, his ability to beat press and gain separation kind of in those tight quarters, man. The catch radius, the body control, the hands, like those things, even if he has lost a step because of all the injuries just piling up on him, I still think he's going to be a really useful guy. And I think just based on what they gave up to, like just understanding, what they invested in this dude and what the expectations should be. Like Allen Robinson is going to be your probably 4th target after Johnson, Pickens, and Freiermuth. If he's healthy, just based on the tape that I saw, even from last year, I still think he's one of the better 4th targets probably in the National Football League. I really do believe that. So, I think it's a good. It's a good move. I'm surprised. Like I said, when I first heard the news, I was like, "Oh no," but after going through the film, man, the film's the film, and I liked what I saw for sure.
The film is the film. I agree with you. I watched a little bit, didn't get 3 games in, but I do. I think Robinson's a good fit for exactly what they were doing in their wide receiver core a year ago. You know what I mean? To come off of Miles Boykin, Gunnar Olszewski, really that was it. Steven Sims, to come into this feels, and I get it. It's April, but it feels really good about the direction of the Steelers receiving core. All right, let's talk NFL draft. Spring has sprung, and our friends at Manscaped have the best tools for some spring cleaning. They've already helped you tidy up all the nooks and crannies of your body's basement, but this year, Manscaped can help you get the perfect presentation on that beautiful face with the brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. Make sure you look your best this spring by using our code STEELERS20 to get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. It's time to tame your mane with the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. The sun is peeking back out, which means you'll have to show off your face in the daylight once again. So, use this kit to make sure your scruff looks award-winning, whether you've got glorious beard flow or some smooth, sleek cheeks. The kit starts off with the Beard Hedger, a waterproof cordless trimmer with a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. So, no more messy drawers full of add-ons. It also comes with titanium-coated T-blades that are tough on your hair but smooth on your face, leading to single-stroke efficiency that brings satisfaction one stroke at a time. The Beard Hedger is a high-tech piece of art in a travel-sized package with a long-lasting battery, universal charging, and a strong motor. Next, the kit has the liquid goods to make you feel good. Starting with the beard shampoo and conditioner, you can treat your beard like you treat your pubes. That's why the kit has a special shampoo and conditioner designed specifically to moisturize, reduce ingrown hairs, and replenish your beard's natural oils and promote beard health. The Pro Kit also has Manscaped's beard oil. The nutrient-infused oil relieves dryness both on the beard and the skin beneath, while still adding a little shimmer and shine to liven up your look. And cap it off with the Beard Balm, a pomade that shapes, styles, and moisturizes, bringing the amazing scent of fresh eucalyptus, rosemary, and lavender essential oils. Not to mention, the Beard Hedger Pro Kit comes with 3 free gifts: a beard brush, a comb, and scissors to ensure your beard is ready to impress. Save 20% off and free shipping with our code STEELERS20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with our code STEELERS20 at manscaped.com. Focus on the face and use the Beard Hedger Pro Kit for the cleanest look in the game. Pre-draft visits are over. They brought in 27, 26 guys, somewhere around there for their top 30 visits. They had 3 big names that they canceled or did cancel throughout this course. DeJuan Jones, who has been probably the top of their list on many people's draft boards for a long time. Gervon Dexter, which you did a prediction a couple of weeks ago saying that him or Keanu Benton will definitely end up a Pittsburgh Steeler. It's looking more a little bit like Keanu Benton at this point. And then Keely Ringo, who was probably the most surprising name on that list to not come in for a pre-draft visit after everything that they've done with him. On the opposite end of that, you bring in Darnell Washington, Brian Brzee, and Broderick Jones, which are 3 huge names, but also bring a lot of questions with them and the interest level and where they could find them as well. Let's start with the guys that did not come in. You've seen the reports about Jones saying that the Steelers were upset with him at his pro day because he didn't do anything. Now everybody's talking about him sliding down the board. You look at the Steelers and say, well, maybe this isn't the option for him. Maybe this isn't the guy at 17 or 32 that we thought he was, and maybe the Steelers are over it.
Yeah, I mean, who really knows, right? It's all speculation.
Yeah.
I mean, with Jones, though, I mean, they've spent a ton of time on him. I mean, they've still spent a ton of time on him, just from the Senior Bowl to the Combine to the Pro Day. Like, this is still a guy that they're really familiar with. And I want to also say, like, with the top 30s, like, I've seen this happen before where prospects have said that, top 30 visits can get canceled for any particular reason. I mean, I know of a draft prospect last year that had a top 30 visit get canceled because of weather. Like, he couldn't get out of the airport that he was in, and then he had other visits the next day. So, like, sometimes it's like a scheduling thing. It's not necessarily saying like the team, like, didn't bring them in. Like, there's a bunch of factors there that can go into that decision making or those things taking place. So as far as Jones, I think they've seen enough of him. Keely Ringo, another guy that they've spent a lot of time on, maybe not as much as Jones, but formal visit at the Combine. They were at his pro day as well, so they're pretty familiar with him. Some of the names that they did end up bringing in, I thought were interesting. Darnell Wright. I was at his podium at the combine. He was basically saying that he met formally with 20 something teams, and we couldn't get him to say like which teams he met with, but I thought it was interesting that he had a top 30 after Andy Weidl was at I believe Andy Weidl was at his
he
pro
was.
day. So he's definitely like probably I think in the mix there at 17. So I mean, some of the names that ended up getting brought in were definitely interesting ones for sure, like Darnell Wright, Darnell Washington.
Washington. You think
couple late
Darnell
names.
Washington's a real thing here?
I don't know. So I did a video with Nick Fairball from Steelers Now on Sunday, and he brought up this possibility, and it was something that I've thought about, and I think we probably talked about too, but of drafting Washington in the second round, and then having basically Freiermuth just like basically just be a move type big slot, and he could give you an upgrade as a blocking tight end. So I think it's an interesting thing. I've said multiple times that Washington is one of the highest floor players in this class. Like I don't see how he just completely busts, because tight ends with his size, even though he can improve on his technique, like his actual hand placement with blocking, he's just so freaking big, so strong, and so athletic that he's going to be a weapon. Like he's going to be a good blocker at the next level. He already is.
Yeah.
So I think, getting him in a room, like even if he's a Mercedes Lewis, Martellus Bennett type player, he's still going to be really valuable, even if he never is. Like, I personally, after watching Washington a lot last season, I don't think Washington's ever going to be anything more than like probably a fourth option on a team. Like, I don't see
receiving
him ever
option.
I don't ever see him being like a primary passing option. But like when you can do some of the things that he can do as a blocker, and you can put him on the field and you can dictate personnel anytime you want, I think that's still pretty valuable. So a couple interesting names for sure with the pre-draft visits, the later guys that we were able to kind of catch wind of.
Yeah, I think what Washington's interesting to me because I agree with you. I also don't know, Zach Gentry is here. I don't know how solidified his roster spot is. I think Connor Hayward's going to end up playing fullback / like slot / halfback this season. Like, I don't think he's a tight end. I don't think he's like, you can't line Connor Hayward up at a tight end against, Myles Garrett and say, hey, chip this guy. That's not going to work. He's not going to chip him. You might as well put me out there to chip this guy. I could see them bringing in another tight end and saying, hey, now we have two tight ends that we've been looking for. I don't know how that complicates things with Freiermuth, but just like you said, you bounce him out to the slot, you use him as just a receiver. I think it could work. Brzee is an interesting name. Broderick Jones is an interesting name. You don't take we talked Jones not showing up. Ringo also reportedly not coming in here. That one has less to it because there's not like the reports about, oh, well, he didn't measure at his pro day. They're upset with that one. They still took him out to dinner. But with everything that's come out, Ringo, I think, is interesting right now because Tyreek Stevenson's gaining some speed. Ike Taylor, made that. I don't know if you saw that clip where he was like second round pick. And I was just like, oh, okay, what does he know that we don't know?
I think he said a third or fourth round pick, and he said,
yeah. He goes, they lying,
dude. That's my guy, man. I love Ike.
Do you think that changes it? Like, do you think that the outlook at corner has changed for you at least at all in these last week or two?
No, I mean, I think the corner class, it's got depth, it's got options for them up at the top. I would be a proponent of them finding a way to double dip. I like the class.
Okay. Let me ask you this, because we have talked about that so much, and I thought about it in my mock yesterday because I had them going corner, I had them going Deonte Banks at 17. But I was like that. I just feel confident that they're going to take a corner at 32 or 49. Is that is that out of the realm of possibilities here in your head?
I don't know that I don't think that they well, I mean, I don't think it's impossible, but I doubt they would do it that close together. But when I say
Yeah,
double dip, like taking one at 17 and 32, and then taking one in like the third or fourth round, or like
yeah.
even if it's one of those seventh round flyers,
Mhm.
like I would be a proponent of that, like 100%. Just because I like the depth of the class, and I think it's it's probably the strongest position group in the 2023 NFL draft. So, and the Steelers, like if you just look at the roster, like Patrick Peterson, probably only going to be here this year.
Yeah.
Levi Wallace, last year of his deal.
Wait, no, I thought Peterson was 2 years. Isn't it 2 years? And he said he wants to play those 2 years?
We'll see if he gets
We'll
there.
see if he could. Yeah, 35 years old for a corner.
Yeah. Levi Wallace, last year of his deal. Arthur
Yeah.
Millette, last year of his deal. There's not anything in the pipeline for the future. Like, and if you get a chance, like in a draft like this, that could potentially push guys down the board that may go a little higher in some other classes, whatever. I think it's a good idea to at least explore the possibility if the board falls the right way. So, um, yeah, I mean, I definitely still think, Ringo's probably in the mix. I think it's really interesting because I think you can make the argument that corner and tackle are probably going to be the two positions that most people talk about the most.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be options at both positions, even at 32. So like, it's not like if you get one at 17, you're not going to be able to get the other. Like, there's guys that I wrote about this yesterday. Like, there's guys at tackle that I like at like if they could get Anton Harrison at 32,
Yeah.
or I would be 100% on board with that. Or even though if you were able to get DeJuan Jones like in the second round as well, like those are all fine options, and it still allows you to get that corner that you really want at 17, whether that's Joey Porter Jr. or Deontay Banks or whatever. But they're gonna have options there. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out.
No, yeah, it definitely is interesting to see how it plays out. The you brought up that's a good one. How long before that tackle class fades into nothing? Because the tackle class is definitely weaker
Yeah.
than usually.
Yeah, no, I brought this up the other day. Like, I think this tackle class is getting overrated, and I really do believe that. I like Paris Johnson. He's my OT1. The way I had it ranked out was Johnson, Darnell Wright.
Darnell Wright was 2
Yeah,
over Skoronski.
no, I have Skoronski as a guard.
Oh,
Skoronski's a guard
okay.
for me,
Okay.
but Paris Johnson, Darnell Wright, Broderick Jones, Anton Harrison was, I think, my top four. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I am getting the vibe that the NFL doesn't like this tackle class as much as like the mainstream media does. Like, it
Yeah.
seems like, so I think that the positions to kind of watch: Chicago at 9,
Mhm.
and then Tennessee. Like, and you can never really count out Philly too, right? Like Philly, like
Yeah.
if they go like a first 2 rounds without taking a defensive lineman or offensive lineman, you're freaking shocked. So
Yeah.
they could take a guy like Skoronski, or they could even take a guy, a tackle or something like that, just for Lane Johnson down the road whenever he retires. I don't know what they could do, but I definitely think if one of Chicago and or Tennessee doesn't take a tackle, I think there's a pretty good chance that like Broderick Jones, Paris Johnson, Darnell Wright, like 1 to 2 of those guys are going to be available to them at 17. It's just a matter of like, do they want to pull the trigger?
So Broderick Jones is interesting because there's been a lot of mocks that bring him up to the Steelers, and they say like,
Mhm.
"Oh, this guy is phenomenal." Blah 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 blah. Then you see the remarks of he struggles in pass protection. What have you watched enough film to get a read on this guy? Do you have thoughts on him?
Yeah, I've watched a good amount of them. Here's the thing with Jones that is concerning to me personally.
Yeah.
I think when you look at his athletic traits, the dude's athletic as all get out. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
he's powerful. He has really good movement. He plays nasty. He's an excellent run blocker. He's a guy who can pull. He can get to the second level, whatever you need him to do right there. When we're just talking about like him pass protecting against like wide nines at the next level, I think he's going to get absolutely torched early in his career. But here's the deal: he's only 20 years old. and like the tools are there for him to become like a top 10 tackle one day. I personally am of the belief that he's a year away though. So like he is not a guy that I would want playing for me as a rookie. And I think that's why that's to me where like I think I kind of vary from like a lot of the fan base or maybe other like draft people too. I really don't know. Where like I really don't see a lot of plug and play offensive linemen in this class.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple, and like like I said, I really like Broderick Jones. If you're gonna take him with the idea that like we're gonna bring this guy along slowly, but like his hands are an absolute mess. I think that like his footwork and his pass sets could use some work too. Like this was the thing that concerned me about Jones too. Like I'm a big matchups guy. I talk about this all like every episode with the draft pod, but I'm a big matchups guy. So like I look for film on matchups against other NFL draft prospects.
Yeah.
Heavy because I want to see you go up against the top competition. BJ Ojolari was absolutely cooking Broderick Jones last year. Like they had to like BJ had like a 5-play stretch, I think, where he had 3 pressures and 2 quarterback hits. And then Georgia was like, it seemed like Georgia and Ty Monken was like, oh, we need to get the ball out of Stetson Bennett's hand because we don't think we can block this dude. And then I watched him go up against Isaiah McGuire from Missouri, and McGuire was getting into his chest and driving him back in pass pro too. So I'm like, okay, those are the 2 probably best pass rushers that you're gonna play. 2 of the 3, 4 best guys that you're gonna play in the season. Like if those guys are getting the better of you, that's a little concerning to me because like I like BJ Ojolari. I have like I think I have like a late or early second round grade on him or something like that. So like he was a guy that I really liked, but like how many of the edge rushers next season as a rookie is he going to play that's better than BJ Ojolari is right now?
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of them.
A lot. All of them. We could say every one of them.
It's going to be difficult. So that's the thing with Jones. I worry that he's going to go to a team that's going to ask him to come in and play as a rookie. And then I think, the fan base is going to do this thing that they always do where they get really impatient and a guy struggles as a rookie and the fans get down on him. Maybe the guy loses confidence. You just never know. But like, he's only 20 years old. Like I think he's 21 years old. Like he's a really young kid still. So I think he has a good amount of upside. He scares me a little bit. If you're asking him to come in and play from day one.
That's my worry in Pittsburgh is there's going to be some expectation that he'll start at least from the fan base. And then if we're being honest, just selfishly, I don't want to have to deal with that. I don't want to have to be the guy that explains why Dan Moore is starting again over the rookie that you took in the first round. Like I'm not into that life. Anton Harrison is the other guy that I think was very interesting that came out of that list. Number 4, you had him. What's his development? Because I talked to people who are close to him and his cycle at Oklahoma, and they've said that like this guy could be day one capable if you need him to be. He could also be a developmental piece, but like it was very much so mixed reviews from these people.
Yeah, I like Harrison a good amount. I think he is probably in a similar like tier in terms of like upside as Broderick is. I think Broderick's a little more impactful as a run blocker than Harrison, but Harrison I think has some underrated play strength just in terms of what people are giving him credit for right now too. But I really like Harrison's footwork. He's a guy that I think has really good hands in pass protection. The thing with Harrison, I think that's going to be interesting is one of the biggest kind of concerns or question marks you have about his game is he played in that RPO heavy system at Oklahoma. There's just not like you'll watch him and he'll go like 10 straight snaps without really having to drop back in a true drop back, like vertical or a 45 set. Like he's literally they're just play action. They move the pocket. It's RPO heavy. Like he's not going up against like wide nines where he's just having a like vertical set, 25, 30 times a game, which is probably more so realistic of what he's going to be asked to do at the next level. So playing more wide nine rushers and then having some more experience, just putting more reps on tape of him, like being able to, true drop back sets is a question mark for him. But he's another guy, really young, really athletic. I think he's got underrated play strength. Love the way he uses his hands in pass pro, independent hands. He'll switch up his techniques and his sets. I just think there's a little more cloudy of a immediate translation just because we haven't seen him do some of the stuff he'll be asked to do as a rookie.
Yeah, I feel that. All right, so I think we've just gone full circle here. We've done as much draft talk as humanly possible for 25 minutes. The big question, the only remaining question. We are 6 days away from the NFL draft. Who the hell are the Steelers going to take at 17? Or who are they going to take at 7? Who, like, if you had to guess, like somebody who's like, hey, you get this correct, we'll give you $1 billion. 17, 32. Oh man, I want to say 49, but 49 is that's getting dangerous. I feel like at 49, anything could happen. 17, 32. You got any thoughts?
If I can hedge and pick one offensive player and one defensive player for 17, I thought about this when we were talking yesterday about potential topics for the pod. The last pod before the draft.
Last pod before. That's how close we are. Like I think that's the significance of this is when you texted me back last night and you were just like, yeah, I got no idea. I was like, we are from when the Pittsburgh Steelers pick, and that's how well they've done at just being like, we have nothing for you, nothing at all.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be real cliche, and I'm gonna say the defensive pick, if I had to guess, is gonna probably be Joey Porter Jr.
I saw that one coming.
I just think the NFL bloodlines, the press man skills, the size, he tested extremely well, probably better than anyone imagined.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's, we've checked all the boxes. They were at his pro day, formal visit at the combine, pre-draft visit. He was a local guy, so he didn't count against their top their 30s. But there's every box that we need checked really for a typical first round pick for the Steelers over the last decade or two. He checks every box.
Yep.
So he would be probably my best guess if I was to guess a defensive player. If I'm guessing an offensive player, I think that's where it gets really interesting because I don't know if Porter is going to be there at 17, but I think there's a decent chance. The guy that I feel like most confident is going to be there at 17, I think is going to be Darnell Wright.
Yeah,
and I'm not like, that probably is a little bit early for him, honestly. Like, I think in a perfect world, like everybody always says, like trade back. Like, it takes two. Like, you got to have somebody willing to, like, who is someone else coming up to get? Like, that's the thing.
That's what I'm saying. 17. If 17 is a dead zone for you, it's a dead zone for the entire NFL.
Well, yeah, it could be or maybe a scenario where somebody's coming up to get. I know Hendon Hooker's getting weird first round vibes right now.
True, Hendon Hooker could be the name. Will Levis could slide.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Maybe one of these quarterbacks fall. Who knows what happens, but I think that Darnell Wright, just when I look at Pat Mayer, like his philosophy in terms of how he coaches the offensive line position, Andy Weidel, coming over from Philly, maybe them just trying to completely overhaul this offensive line and trying to really give this offense an identity of just being some maulers up front. And I think Darnell Wright, like me, he fits that mold. Like, he's a nasty dude. And, he checks a lot of the boxes, like the visits, the top 30s, he checks a lot of the boxes. So those would be my two best guesses. Just full disclosure, like I told you last night, I really have no idea. And this is the first time forever. I really was actually nervous because I think I've written up mock drafts the last 3 years. And I've only done 2 predicted mocks. Well, in the last 3 years, I've gotten at least 1 pick right. And I really want to continue that streak, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that this year just because I don't feel as good about the round one, where they could be going. So I don't know.
They have just like you, every year on this beat, I've gotten somebody right. And for the most part, it's been the first round pick. Like I messed up last year, thought it was Malik Willis. Everybody thought it was Malik Willis. This year, I'm just like you, man. Like I'm just sitting here. I'm just like, there's a million different scenarios, and the teams in front of them could change everything. Like there's nobody that's going to be here that you're like, oh, well, that guy's going to be there at 17. It's like maybe I have no idea. All right. So my two, I'll go one on each two. I'm gonna man, like Joey Porter Jr. is the name. Obviously, he should remain the name. But I'm with you. Like, I just don't. I have such a hard time believing that this guy slides to 17, especially if Christian Gonzalez and Devin Witherspoon go like 6, 7. There's no way 10 more picks are going by and nobody's taking a corner. Like, that's just not going to happen. And I mean, maybe Deonte Banks passes these guys, but I don't know. I don't know. Joey Porter Jr. is probably the name. I'll stick with Joey Porter Jr. I'll go Joey Porter Jr. I'm not going to go Darnell Wright. I'm not going to go an offensive guy. I think the other guy is possibly Brian Brzee. I think that he's checked off all the boxes. You know, he matches that entire alignment. The Steelers have liked this guy since day one. There were like reports when the Keely Ringo thing started to like really gain some steam. His name was out there too, like in that group of these are the two guys that the Steelers love. And we kind of just like ignored that one and just stuck with Ringo. So I think he's a possibility there at 17. Plus, I think he's going to be there at 17. Like he's really the only guy that I'm like, well, he fits the value of 17. He'll probably be there at 17. There's just no like, where are you going to play him? Are you going to draft a guy at 17 to come off the bench behind Cam Hayward and Larry Ogunjobi? And what if Cam Hayward just plays forever? Because at this point, that's a real possibility. You know, I don't know when he's going to retire. 32 gets very interesting. So say they go both scenarios again. This is how we'll wrap this up here. You drafted Joey Porter Jr. or Darnell Wright at 17. Who's your guess at 32?
Man, that's tough.
Yeah. It's so tough.
I don't know. I can't really think about who they would take at 32. Like I said, I personally, if they could get Anton Harrison, if he was still on the board at 32, I would be 100% on board with that. If they just swapped those positions.
Do you think that, because I think the other way around here is probably Tyreek Stevenson at 32. Possibly.
Yeah, he would be a name on day 2. I personally haven't watched. I've watched like 3 games of Stevenson. I think 32 is early for him.
Early, like at the beginning of this, he was like a 42. Like he was like that Julius Brents range.
Yeah,
now Taylor's leading us on to think it's 17.
Yeah, I personally think that's early. I'll say I'll stick with who I had mocked there last time, or the first mock I did with Emmanuel Forbes. I think Emmanuel Forbes, Keely Ringo, those two guys I think would be guys that they'd probably be interested in for different reasons if they were there at 32 and if they took, a tackle at 17.
Yeah, Darnell Wright at 17. Where does Ringo, what's Ringo's range? Because I think that's the name to watch in the second round, him and Stevenson. What's their range in your eyes? Like, where do you go? Will they be there? Do you think they could be there at 49?
Maybe.
Ringo's a tough one.
Yeah, Ringo's a tough one because I think that it'll just depend. He's a guy that needs a lot of technical development, like little stuff that needs to change with his technique. I don't think he gets out of the top 50 because guys built like him with that type of production that are 21 years old, that type of profile typically goes in round 1.
Yeah, I was gonna say if this was
and
a
it's
normal
not
corner
like
class,
the tape was
top 15.
It's not like the tape was bad either. Like even I broke him down to a lot, but even like when he gets beat on a play, like you can easily point to why that is. He does have some deficiencies. I think he's a little bit tight I don't think the change of direction skills are very good either. But in terms of like just being a bully and a linear athlete, the dude can freaking fly. Like I don't think he knows how fast he is, honestly, because he plays like he runs like a 4.5,
Yeah.
even though he's clearly a 4.3 guy,
Yeah.
even in pads. So, yeah, I don't know. I would be kind of surprised if he was there at 49, to be honest, though.
Yeah, 49 is an interesting spot for me because just like you said, like I could see both of them gone, but I also could see like 32 where they're stuck with a dilemma where maybe a guy like Flowers or Addison is sitting there as well. And they're like, oh, well, we did really like these guys. They probably carry more value at 32 than the other two. It's interesting. It's interesting. We are literally 6 days away. We just had a full 25-minute conversation about how the Pittsburgh Steelers, we have no idea where they're going in the NFL draft. That's interesting. That's a very exciting time. I will say this before we head out, the whole Jalen Carter stuff. I did a little digging, hit up a couple of people, that I know floating around the top 10, and the vibe is not. Actually, I got somebody who laughed at me, who said no shot. The vibe is not that the Steelers are going to have an opportunity to draft Jalen Carter, so we could scratch that one off. Unfortunately, it just feels like he's going at 5. That was the thing. It was just like if he's not gone at 5, everybody behind them will be shocked. And then I talked to somebody with the Bear who covers the Bears, I should say, and they were a little they're definitely I don't know I don't know what the right word was, but their response was just like, well, they'd have to give up the house to come up to 9. And I'm like, I don't think you know who Omar Khan is or what they did to the Bears the last time, but okay, I get what you're saying here. So I think we could rule that one out, which just makes everything, I think, so much more difficult. Draft night's going to be excited though. Next time we talk, there will be a 17th pick, which is super exciting actually. And we'll be talking about 32, and chances are we're both totally wrong because that's typically what happens here, but that's what's fun about the NFL draft. With that, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts, and check out all of mine and Derek's work at allsteelers.com. Also go subscribe to Derek's YouTube channel, Steelers_DB. I will be back on Monday with Steven. Enjoy another beautiful week in the Berg. Peace.